Katie and I were talking about last night, what should we talk about on the call tonight? And I just really thought, let's stick with the topic of really how do we get people on board? Why would they want to come over to Sisel versus any other company? I mean, there's thousands of network marketing companies that pop up every year. I think I read somewhere over 8,000 just in the United States. And you think about this number, every 10 seconds, somebody in the world joins a network marketing company. Every 10 seconds, Katie. Isn't that amazing?
Incredible.
They say that 1 in 5 homes has a product in the house from a network marketing company. So you have a 20% chance that the person you're talking to is already using a network marketing product. So
that's interesting, Curt, because, people say, oh, well, people don't like network marketing. But if you just said 1 in 5 homes, that means for every 5 people you talk to, one's pro.
20%, right? So you have a 20% chance that you're talking to somebody already has bought products. And I would bet that if you really talk to them, there's probably another, double that are actually buying products. They just didn't really know what you meant when you said it. So with that, I'm gonna introduce you to one of our leaders. She really helps me a lot with keeping Australia going, and I really thank Katie for helping out with a lot of that. And most of you know her, a lot of you know her. So Katie, I'm gonna let you get started and kind of do an introduction to Sisel.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dr. Curt. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on the call today, or if you're watching the recording, thanks for taking the time out of your day. We really appreciate it. So today we want to talk to you a bit about why Sisel, why it's so unique. And I'm going to go through sort of more general stuff. And then Dr. Curt's going to focus more on why Sisel is a premier age reversal anti-aging company. So to start with, we've got our first slide up here. What does Sisel stand for? It stands for science, innovation, success, energy, and longevity. Some people pronounce it Sisel. I guess it could, it looks like it's pronounced that way, but it's actually Sisel. So this company was started in 2006, and I'll just go to the next slide. It was started in Utah. So Tom Mauer Sr. and his son, Tom Mauer Jr. started Sisel. They're both the co-founders. And so it's, a well-established company. It's been around for a while now. And, the momentum of the company is now building. And, we're expected that the next 10 years are going to be some really excellent growth for our company. It has been a lifelong mission for both the Mauers. So many people may not know the past story, but Tom Sr. owned a previous company. It was very successful, particularly in Australia as well. I think it became the second largest network marketing company. He started with his passion. His son was losing his hair, and Tom became concerned about that and started looking into why that might be and started looking at chemicals. And at that time, he was working in industry as a manufacturing, chemist, biochemist, and he was developing cleaning product for industry. And he started looking at all those ingredients that are used in those products, and he found that in industry, they're using the same ingredients in those products as what they're putting in personal care. And he thought, oh, gee, wow, this is why it'll be contributing to hair loss. That was his belief. So he started throwing everything out of his bathroom and started formulating his own products. And he started with a shampoo and conditioner to help his son. And so it started on the kitchen bench, and the company grew from there. So the company grew, it became very big, and it was always, from the very beginning, the mission has always been to produce safe, non-toxic products, very concerned about ingredients. He was even talking about, asbestos in talcum powder, or talcum powder having asbestos properties being, potentially carcinogenic back then. And now they've found that to be the case, and there's been Johnson & Johnson's been sued for it. So things he was talking about back in the 1990s have now come to fruition, and we're in 2020 now. So lifelong passion, and he's continued that and taken that mission and that passion with his son into the new company, which is obviously Sisel International. It started in Australia They did a soft open around 214, 215, but it wasn't officially started, I guess, until the New Zealand warehouse opened. And now we've been, working through some challenges, and now Sisel's really set for the coming years, and they're going to be improving a lot of things, of course, as they grow to accommodate for that change. So we're really set for some massive growth, and it will continue that lifelong passion. And I've discovered Tom in 2000, and I think it was 4 or 3. I was 25 or 6 back then. So I've known about this for a long time. I was really passionate about it back then. And really, because you can see on the slide here, it says to inform, educate, and empower people worldwide. So that's what the mission's about. And that's why I think it's so unique. There's also a lot of passion in the company. The company's got heart and soul, because we do have a mission and people stand behind that mission. So it's a really unique situation, I think, set up here. So let me go to the next slide. So we already talked about it's built on $1 billion company. So they've, taken their, earnings from the previous company. They've invested it into the new company. It's a 30-year Mao mission, 30 years plus. And I've talked about the no harmful ingredients, and they are really icons in the health and wellness industry. Even Tom Senior, they're both Genius Award winners. So both Tom Junior and Tom Senior have won 2 times a Genius Award winner for formulations and patents on products. And even recently, Tom Senior, Curt, has been invited to the stem cell. Do you want to just tell our viewers a little bit about that? What was the invitation about? Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Curt. You're muted. Sorry, we can't hear you. There we go.
All right. I was just going to say, last October, Tom had the privilege of being a keynote speaker at the World Congress of Stem Cells. It was over in Spain, I think in Barcelona last year. And, it was 2 years ago now. And he's been invited back as a keynote speaker for this February. Plus, he's been invited to another stem cell research organization, and I wasn't familiar with the other one, but Tom was also invited to be a board member on the World Congress of Stem Cells as well. So we should look forward to hearing more and more about that. And what I tell people is that, what a great honor for somebody from our company, the co-founder, the chief scientist from our company. Think about the credibility that it adds to him. Think about the credibility that it adds to the company. Think about the credibility that it adds to the products. So back to you, Katie.
Thank you. Yeah, so the mission is about also, creating health, wealth, and happiness for people worldwide. And so I know if you've ever listened to any of Tom Senior's talks, he certainly reiterates that message, comes through loud and clear. As he says himself, he is a billionaire. So he's got more than enough money to meet all his needs and some. So now it's about really following his passion and reaching as many people as possible and helping many people as possible as well. So it's quite unique in that because he, researches age reversal ingredients and develops products, there's other scientists that do that, but they're quite restricted because they're given grants by pharmaceutical companies. They have to work within a framework. They have to get funding to pay for all their research. Tom has the ability to do this research himself. He has his own research and development facility. They have a team of PhD scientists that work together in that facility, researching the research. And so then they can take that information and develop products, cutting edge nutraceuticals. And so just a really unique situation. I really don't know, Curt, of any other company doing this sort of stuff. There's network marketing companies out, they outsource their products to other companies to develop them. I'm not aware of any that do their own research and development to the extent that Sisel do. And on top of that, Sisel have their own manufacturing facility. It's called Supernaturals. You can see a picture of it here on the slide. Supernatural sits right next door to the customer service office in Utah, Salt Lake City. And the Mowers own Supernaturals, and Supernaturals is, 400,000 square foot facility plus and growing. They've already got slabs poured to expand the facility because they've got massive visions for Sisel, and they've got the space and they've got the plans in place already. You know, they've got over 100 million invested. They buy all their own machinery and high-tech equipment. The company is also protected by a dynasty trust. So this is great because it means it can't be broken up or sold for 250 years. What tends to happen with other companies, and this is my opinion, is that when they're owned by shareholders, there's a conflict of interest, because ultimately their interest is definitely the bottom line always, and they want to make sure they're making as much money as possible, which of course makes sense in business, but sometimes you need to make compromises if you want to develop a highly advanced formula. They may not meet that criteria. So then what do? So then ultimately, I believe the product gets compromised. Whereas this situation here, we know and can trust that we're getting the best possible formulas with the highest quality ingredients at the highest potency. I mean, Tom Senior is so into making products the best they possibly can be. They're constantly reformulating and improving, and they're improving and reformulating without passing on that cost to us. So just an example, like the Inner Chi for him and her recently got upgraded with more advanced ingredients, new ingredients, more potent ingredients, and we didn't pay for that. So fantastic. Again, another unique aspect of Sisel. So the company is family owned. So all the Mowers are involved. We've got Tom Senior, Tom Junior, Liesl Mauer, his daughter, Tom Senior's daughter. We've got Thomas Junior, that is Tom Junior's son. So 3 generations of Toms. And, you know, so they're really invested in their own business, and they're, you know, helping to grow the Mauer mission. So it's really just a fantastic situation. I've mentioned that they've got a team of scientists. They use the latest scientific discoveries using therapeutic doses. So Tom's talked about other companies will do something called fairy dusting, and that's where they put a very small amount of an ingredient in a product so they can actually, you know, say that it's in the product, but it's not a therapeutic dose for it to do anything. And so this is apparently rife in the industry, and it's all very well having, say, resveratrol in a product. There's many, you know, studies have shown it has many benefits, but if you don't have it at the right amount and the right quality, then, you know, what good is it really? It's just there to say it's on the label, and it's probably not really doing you much good. So we can trust that Sisel make sure they're using the therapeutic doses. And the other thing is that, you know, you're buying direct from the manufacturer. There's no middleman. When you purchase your products, that's where they've been made, and they're coming straight to your door. So, you know, for me, I think that gives me a lot of sense of, I guess, trust that I know who's developed the products, that I don't have to worry that they've been contaminated. So another thing that Sisel do is, you know, they get all the raw ingredients into their manufacturing facility. They're tested for quality, potency. They quarantine their raw ingredients. They use a number of testing, and there's a whole list of tests that they do, but some of them include full pathogen micro testing on their ingredients. They do elemental analysis, including heavy metals. So they're always looking for heavy metal contamination and other contaminants. They use thin layer chromatography to test botanicals and to test contamination and, again, potency. And so that way we can ensure that we're always getting the same quality of ingredient in each product, and make sure that, you know, it's consistent. And the other thing, Sisel even go to the extent, Curt, of, you know, using special plastic that is vacuum stripped, so that plastic doesn't leach into the product and contaminate the ingredients. So other companies might talk about how great the product is, had they bothered to look at the plastic bottle. So all round, it's very unique and complete from end to end. And so I guess that's mostly what I wanted to share about Sisel today. I could talk about it for ages because I love it so much, and, you know, the opportunity. But now I wanted to hand over to you, Curt, because you're going to focus more on the anti-aging, age reversal aspects of Sisel. And I just put this slide up for you so people have got some pictures to look at.
You bet. All right, you want to leave that slide up there?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, folks, I mean, you take a look at what Katie was just talking about. You take a look at our company. And it's pretty amazing. Tom ran the 5th largest network marketing company in the world, and they just a family-owned business, and it just excelled. And then due to a divorce, they were forced to sell it. But he didn't just take that money that he got from that and say, "Oh, I'm going to go just retire." He had plenty of money. He could have stopped what he was doing. The whole family could have lived off of what he got from that. But what I try and tell people is that, like Katie was explaining, they had this mission that they were going to make the world better. And, I talk a lot about purpose and passion and mission. And what are you going to do with your life? What's your passion? What's your purpose? What do you do? And you just start thinking about, kind of where when you die, what are they going to put on your gravestone? What's going to be on your epitaph? I mean, is it just going to say, here lies Curt? Yeah, he was here, now he's not. Or is it gonna are people going to remember you for something that you were able to accomplish? And that's where I really think Sisel is a lot different. But I really wanted to share some things about the products. And Katie kind of hit on it a little bit, like fairy dusting and things like that. When you take a look at a lot of these ingredients, Tom and I have sat and talked a lot about the science and about the ingredients that we make our products out of. And a lot of the ingredients come from exotic plants. And if you can imagine some of these ingredients, there's not much of it in the plant. Like in one product that we have, it's called TSX. There's an ingredient in there that you take 12,000 pounds of the dried plant, and it yields less than 2.5 pounds of the actual active ingredient. And you can imagine that if you're taking and you're pulling that little bit of an active out, it's going to be pretty expensive. It's $84,000 for a kilo of this stuff. And, and I know you're all, imagining, you're going, wow, how am I going to buy a product that costs $84,000? But it doesn't take much of that $84,000 ingredient to make a difference in your health. It takes just a dab. And so when the 2009 Nobel Prize was given out and they were talking about this active ingredient, a company popped up that was using the ingredient. And at that time, they were using just a small amount. They were using 3 milligrams. And that product was selling for $500 for a month's supply. And that's really how I got introduced to Sisel, because I was looking for a company. I was looking for a company that I could wrap my arms around, the company, the products, the compensation, the whole shebang, basically. And I was very familiar with telomeres, like I said, the Nobel Prize, 2009. And I looked at that and I thought, well, it's probably another one of those companies that just, they just put a little bit in there and they say, oh, we got that. Or maybe they take the whole 12,000 pound plant extract and they put the whole plant extract in there, because that's what a lot of companies do. And they'll say, oh, yeah, we got the same thing. But folks, you got to imagine that it's not the same thing when you're dealing with a plant extract, actives like that. You got to use the actual extract to get the results. And I started looking into the science, and I found that we actually do use the exact science. And so when you look at that again, compared to the product that uses 3 milligrams, we were using 20, and that kind of caught my view of that. And then I found out they were using 20 milligrams of another ingredient, and that ingredient costs $45,000 per kilo. So pretty soon you start to see that all the products are really developed that way. They're developed with the therapeutic dose. They're developed with the dosage that's actually going to make a difference when you take them. And it's not just the TSX. Katie talked about eternity, about the resveratrol. You know, when they did their science back in the 90s on resveratrol, they said, here's an ingredient that can do this and this and this, and all across the world, the cost of red wine went up. There was and because everybody said it's going to be the big seller because red wine has resveratrol. Resveratrol is it's the anti-aging. It was the miracle science of the year. And they discovered that it really wasn't that way, that resveratrol has to be specially processed and really not so much specially processed, but it has to be protected. Because as it turns out, resveratrol is highly oxidizable. And most resveratrol gets exposed to oxygen. And by the time it gets to the end consumer, it's 90% inactive. And so when Tom developed Eternity, when he formulated Eternity, he kept that in mind. He kept that in mind when he developed the product. So he made an active product that really had the ingredient that made the difference. And it had not just a little bit of it, but it gave you the equivalent of drinking, one dose gave you the equivalent of drinking 350 glasses of red wine. So you can just imagine by looking at that, by hearing that kind of science, that it's pretty amazing. So you start looking at that. And then when Tom went to the World Congress of Stem Cells a year and a half ago or so, when he was there in Spain, he was talking to Aubrey de Grey, who's probably one of the most iconic figures in all of anti-aging science. A lot of us, we know who he is, and they were talking about the fact that you have to be able to get rid of the old, dead, damaged cells out of your body so that the stem cells can come in and replace those damaged cells with brand new, healthy, young baby cells that can repopulate and rebuild. And the conversation that Tom had with Aubrey de Grey, I remember Tom and I talking about it. Aubrey de Grey was saying that it was pretty difficult science to do, as as something that would be maybe impossible to do. And when I was talking to Tom says to me, he said I think I've already got it figured out. That was within 60 days of getting back from the World Congress of Stem Cells. So when you're hearing that, I mean, you got to think about how that guy's mind is working. I mean, you give him a problem, he comes up with a solution. And when I come down to Australia next month, well, actually in less than 10 days, I'll be leaving. When I come down there in 10 days, Tom's asked me to launch that product in Australia. Last week on the call, I announced that I was going to give $100 to the person who brought the most guests to all the meetings across Australia and New Zealand. And I was talking to Tom just 2 days ago, and Tom told me, he said, why don't you give 2 bottles of the new product? And I can't give you the name of it yet. So whoever brings the most guests to the meetings will get a 2-month supply of the new product that will get the old, dead, damaged, decaying cells out of the body. I mean, think about that, folks. I mean, here's a product that just a couple of years ago, iconic figures in the anti-aging field were saying it might be impossible to come up with a product. And now you can win a 2-month supply just by inviting friends to come and hear about the new product. And I know there's a couple other things that Tom wants me to announce when I'm down there, but I can't say anything about it right now. I'm just going to say that it'll be worth your time to come to the presentations to hear that. And so you think about, like what Katie was saying, here we've got a unique situation with the company that we're debt free. We're set up in a way that the company can't be bought or sold ever, which means that the problem that happens to most network marketing companies is they get so big that they sell off to shareholders and stockholders, and eventually those stockholders say, hey, how do we make some more money? Well, the only way for the stockholders and the shareholders to make more money is they steal it from the distributors. That's where it comes from. And because we're set up in a dynasty trust, that won't happen. That won't have to happen. The dynasty trust says that our company will always be a family-owned company. And so that protects us. That protects us for long term. And that's another thing that really sets us apart. Right now, I look at it like this. I mean, you can't go anywhere without hearing about looking younger, feeling younger, acting younger. You hear about stem cells. You hear about skincare products. You hear about all these different things about regenerative medicine. Mayo Clinic, which is one of the largest clinic system, one of the most known clinic systems for their treatment, their results. They announced earlier last spring, that they were going to be the top anti-aging clinical system, at least in the United States. And I know that Harvard Medical is probably trying to keep Mayo at least at a close second, because they want to be the number one. And then you have Google, and you have Yahoo, and you have all these high-tech companies, these techie companies that are investing their money, millions and millions of dollars into anti-aging research. It was just announced the other day that Yahoo has invested in a drug company, and they're working on an anti-aging drug over in Europe. Earlier this fall, Katie and I were talking about it here about a month ago. Google actually is invested heavily into GlaxoSmithKline, who are working on anti-aging products. So think about it, folks, when you have the big names like Harvard and Mayo and Yale and GlaxoSmithKline and Google and Yahoo, all these companies investing their money into working in anti-aging, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I remember it was, 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, probably closer to 12 years ago, when I heard that one of the greatest economists in the country, Paul Zane Pilzer, he said that the anti-aging business, the wellness industry, was going to be the next $1 trillion a year industry. $1 trillion. And there's two other $1 trillion industries that have happened, and one of them was the automobile, and the next one was the computer industry, and so the third $1 trillion industry is going to be the wellness anti-aging industry. And folks, you look at what we have. Tom Maurer is been asked to be on the board of the World Congress of Stem Cells. He's been asked to return as a keynote speaker at the World Congress of Stem Cell Symposium. And he's been asked to come and speak at another symposium on stem cells. So think about, again, like I said, the credibility of all that. Where does that put our company? It puts our company way out in front. We're light years ahead. Most of the products that we have are so advanced that a lot of companies that are trying to mimic us, a lot of companies that are coming out with, Me Too type products, they can't even figure out what we're doing. They can't figure out what we have. So how are they possibly going to say we have a product that does the same thing? How can they possibly even do that? And so that puts our company way out front on top of that. And then folks, I I talk about the fact that, you know, we've got this great company, we've got this rock solid foundation, we've got the scientists, we've got the products. So we've got everything that can drive this thing. Now we just got to put a giant size engine in that car. And that's the compensation plan. That's the compensation plan. And what sets our compensation plan apart is that we're able to pay higher commissions. We're able to pay those commissions out not just on a monthly basis, but in several parts of our compensation plan. We can pay them out daily. We can pay them out daily, and that's important. And we take the best of all the compensation plans that are out on the market, and we don't just add one piece of the compensation plan. We take all of the best pieces of all the other compensation plans, and we combine them together into one super powerful compensation plan. And folks, I'll tell you, for me, that makes a huge difference, because as our world changes and as our economy changes, we need to come up with a way that we can generate maybe a good income, maybe a secondary income, whatever it happens to be. I mean, you got to think about where you want it for yourself and your family. But I think that all these things that Katie and I have been talking about is what sets us apart and what makes us so totally unique as a company. And I think it's gonna drive us into the future. And I was listening to Tom this morning. He did a talk on the morning call, and I'll tell you what, he is super, super excited about what we have coming later this year. I mean, we have a couple of exciting products that I know a little bit more about than most people, but I can't say anything. I've been sworn to secrecy. I'll be shot in the head if I tell you, so you won't hear about it from me. But I'm telling you, it's just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing the limits to what we can do. And so build for that excitement. I'm coming down to Australia and New Zealand here in next month in February. Try to get to the presentations and just imagine if you brought five new people with you, 5 people who you're just getting exposed, you're just getting started to what we're doing here. And then in March, the Mowers are going to be coming down and doing another set of presentations across Australia and New Zealand in March. And then in July, Tom's coming back to Australia to do the exact same thing. So in the next 7 months, you can have 3 exposures live with what's going on and hearing about it. And then the end of July, we've got a huge world convention happening out in Utah. And so you can plan for that. I mean, just think if you bring 5 new people to the presentation when I'm there, and you and those 5 each bring 5 to the presentation when Tom comes down or Lisa comes down in March, and then all of you bring 5 new people to the presentation in July, and then all of you go to the World Symposium, the convention in Mower Mountain that we're having in July. Like Katie and I talked about last week, when you go to a destination type of presentation, when you fly to a presentation like that, to the one that'll be in Utah in July, an event like that, what Eric Worre and some of the experts in the field of network marketing have said, in the industry of network marketing, they say that'll add $1,000 a year to your income for everybody that you have at that. Not just $1,000 because you're there, but for everybody on your team that you bring to that. So you want to try and bring as many people to these different meetings that you can, because it builds their belief. It lets them know that they're not the only one on the block doing this. So anyhow, Katie, I'm going to hand it back over to you, and I'm going to let you close out the talk. Folks, thanks for being here with us tonight. Thanks for listening, and try and share this with everybody that you possibly can. Have a great night.
Thanks, Dr. Curt. Thanks everyone for joining us. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. We'll make the recording available on YouTube, Sisel World Team and Sizzlers Connect YouTube channel. So you'll be able to share it with others. Anyone that you have that's thinking about joining Sisel or wants to know more about the company, this information is really key to share. It will really help them develop a better understanding and help them develop that belief and that passion and share the same passion that we have. So thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.